cutting edge, controversial, provocative, and introspective. Grab your cup of coffee and join me for Coffee Chronicles with R. Wayne Woodson. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It is early today. It is early. I had a late night last night. I'm up and at it. So thank you for joining me. I am excited for this morning's Coffee Chronicles. It's been an interesting week. I have been watching a lot of shows. I've been watching a lot of people's lives. I've been doing some research. I've been fielding calls and comments, regarding Black History Month. So it is a great time to be here and to be active in America. So this morning I have a few topics, just 3 topics that we're really going to delve into. As usual, if you have comments or thoughts regarding today's discussion, just pop those in the chat window. I'll address those, and then we will see where we go. So the first thing, I am going to start this morning's show a little differently. We're talking about Black history, so I want to play a video where some students are talking about what they think Black History Month is. So let me pop that video on really quickly.
Hello! Black History Month is a commemoration, vocab word, for Black activists, another vocab word, who took their time out to go fight for what they feel is right. Like Martin Luther King had a speech that violence is not the answer and no segregation. We celebrate Black people that helped us change history. It reminds us to be strong, even in politics. What matters is what's inside of you and how you act to other people.
It doesn't matter if you're Black, if you're white, just always celebrate it because you know the struggles Black leaders went through in order for you to be here right now.
Even though we may have the different skin color, we're still the same type of people, no matter what.
And a lot of people, they don't see me for who I am. They see my outside appearance, but they don't see what I have on the inside.
It's very hard to grow up knowing that you're Black and you have a lot of personal prejudice against you.
I see it on the TV and I'm like, is that going to happen to my brother? Is that going to happen to my dad? I always have that in the back of my mind every time that I'm home and they're not home.
Black history is important to me because I have to remember where I came from and I have to remember who came before me.
Because you have to look at the things that Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X did for us Black people, so people can't treat us unfairly because they think some type of belief.
Because we are all people, and you need to stand up for our rights.
There's still discrimination. There's still discrimination in all parts of the world, in all parts of the United States. We should still fight for what we believe in. We should still fight for getting what's right.
So I think that that video really sums up, what a lot of people believe Black History Month is. We always talk about Martin Luther King. We always talk about Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and those types of people. This year, I am doing a lot of work as it relates to ensuring that people understand some of the other aspects of Black history. And I think that that's critical. And I think sometimes we don't do that. A few weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I was on a Clubhouse group, and they were talking about, how we move Black history forward, the things that we can do really to help our young people understand really why we're celebrating, what we're doing. So there are a few misconceptions. First, I think most of you know that Dr. Carter Woodson, who is labeled as the father of Black history, is my great-grand uncle. So my family has done a lot of work historically in promoting our history. And so one of the things that I always try to share with people is that the way we celebrate Black history now is not the way it was originally intended. So originally, we were supposed to be celebrating and studying, we were supposed to be studying all year long. And then during that time, which originally was Black History Week, we would celebrate everything we had already learned. I think somehow when it was switched to Black History Month, we decided, or the community decided, or civilization at large, that we would focus that month on all of those processes. And so we kind of reversed the original intent. So I always try to share with people that the way we're celebrating now is not how we were supposed to be doing this process. That we really should be incorporating Black History Month or Black history on a year-long basis. And so I have developed, the BH12 initiative, which really is working to promote the study, celebration, inclusion of Black history in our society on a daily basis, all 12 months of the year. And if you're interested in that, you can certainly look on my website, which is rwaynewoodson.com. You'll see a lot of what I'm doing. You'll see information on that and also on my shows. So we want to make sure that, one, we are including Black history all year. I also watched a YouTube video this week with someone that I really respect who was just sharing that, Black history is kind of redundant because what Black people have done is history. And I believe in that in one regard, but then I also know that we use qualifiers. So not just Black history, but we have Latino history, we have American history, British history. So I think that the qualifier is important as we look to provide insight on what type of history we're studying. And so I think that, we want to make sure we don't get too bogged down in the terminology, but really focus on the purpose. And that being celebrating and studying our past. However, what I think that we're lacking these days is moving that narrative to a more contemporary time frame. There are people that are living now. We just lost Cicely Tyson. Major impact, not just on motion pictures, but just on our culture and society at large. So there are people now that are doing great work that are part of the Black community. And I think we should also during this time celebrate some of those people. And they're not all major celebrities that you may know. So like the Oprahs of the world, the Tyler Perrys of the world. But there are educators across this country that are making major impacts. There are faculty, staff, administrators at HBCUs that are making major impact. There are people at financial institutions and churches that are really shifting the paradigm of how we look at things. And I think we also want to make sure we study those. And I think that will help our young people really develop a connection to why this is important, why our Black history is important. If we teach some older people or some people who might be from the past and, connect that with some people who are contemporary. I always like to make sure that people are aware of Carter G. Woodson. Often he is overlooked. And a lot of people have no clue who he is. And, I know from, my family study that the reason he even went into history is because he had a professor and they were studying history and they were studying American history and they were discussing all these things about American history. But there were at that time, we were referred to as Negroes. There were no Negroes in the study at all. And he is in graduate school now. And so he was very concerned about that. When he raised his hand and asked his professor why, the professor turned around and told him that, Negroes have no history that is relevant and necessary to study. And it was at that point that he shifted where he was going to go and focus solely on that work really for the remainder of his life. And that was a great financial sacrifice. There are some documents and things that say that at one point he was only making $12 a week and was still investing a majority of that back into the work. And so I think that is some dedication. I know many of us potentially struggle to live paycheck to paycheck or feel we have low salaries. I don't know if I could survive on, even back then, $50 or $60 a month. And so that just speaks to his dedication. And I think that, we need to connect those trailblazers to what we're doing. We often have very serious and varying views on Oprah Winfrey. However, she is a pioneer in the media field. She has developed not just a brand, but an empire dedicated to media. And although I also sometimes don't agree with some of her statements or the way that she does things, we can't deny her impact. I just still remember back when Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana and how Oprah not just took her crew there to show what was happening, but gave and got, other celebrities to give at these extremely high rates to really help people on the grassroots level. And, I think that, philanthropic work and giving is important. I know, having studied, having read, just having looked at things, that if our community celebrities gave back, we would not have many of the disparities and issues that we are facing now, because a lot of them are financially based. The high levels of uneducated people in our population, the large disparities in socioeconomic statuses, the housing issues. There are a lot of issues. When I grew up, my parents, after the second or third break-in of our house in Detroit, moved to Oak Park. And that was an experience for me. I came from an urban city. Detroit is an urban city. And we moved to Oak Park, which at that time was still about 85% Jewish. And I got to really meet some Jewish people, and I got to interact with that culture. And it was just amazing to me how their religion is literally integrated into their day-to-day life, every aspect. But what I also found, as I got a little bit older, is the way that the Jewish population gives back to and builds their own communities. It was, literally, it was a Jewish city at that time. And so, on Saturdays, you knew who wasn't Jewish because our lights were on. And there were things that we were doing that they weren't. They didn't drive their cars. You would see them going to synagogue and walking. And you would see their sheds out back during, their high holy periods. And so I just wish that somehow we could shift how our community functions and not be so divisive or not be so focused on our own wealth and our own moving forward that we forget that there are people behind us. And there are young people who are watching what the people they see are doing, whether they say it or not, or whether they address it or not. Good morning, Dr. Glover. They are watching. Young people are watching everything we're doing. And, I have worked with some disadvantaged communities over the course of my career. And it is amazing how at a young age, when they're in elementary school age, they have such dreams. You see a light in their eyes. They have such high aspirations. And then you see as they move forward in our educational system, that light gets diminished. And usually that happens around middle school, and I do a lot of my research on Black male success and studying young Black males. And there is documentation that by middle school, they have decided whether education is going to be helpful or important. That's damaging to our community. We also know that at the collegiate level, the highest population, the highest success rate of any demographic are Black women. And so we just really want to begin to observe and watch our young people, help our young people. They are in communities that are struggling. I live here in Atlanta, and we have this whole debate now because in the summer and sometimes in the fall and winter, we have these, what they call water boys that sell water on the side of the roads. And some of them, I have never experienced it, but some of them become quite aggressive. I've read that they've banged on people's cars or, force people to buy water. If somebody buys water, the other ones come running up. And so people are starting to make complaints about this group of people. I'm also glad that we have a city councilman who is proposing some ways to really help that community that's selling the water and also have some management. But I want to just address the fact that many of them are out there because they come from homes or communities that are so disadvantaged that they are lacking resources. When I was still working at Payne College in Augusta, we had what we were calling there was a food desert. There was a Kroger in that area. Kroger closed that store. It didn't affect people like me. And I'll be very honest, it didn't affect my colleagues. It didn't affect the people who were making decisions because we had cars and we could drive to Evans. We could drive to other parts of Augusta and still get groceries, and life moved on for us. But there were a lot of people in that community that walked to that store. There were a lot of people in that community that did not have, hey, how are you? That did not have a method of getting anywhere else. So closing that grocery store was very impactful in a negative way for that community. So I went to the meeting, and what I noticed when I first got there is out of all the people in the room, there was not a single member from that community. No one that was representing the people that really needed that store. And I did bring that up. Now, I wasn't invited to another meeting. I don't know if it was because I brought that up or if they didn't have any more meetings or if I just was no longer needed. But I did bring that up because I am tired of people making decisions without the folks in the room that the decisions directly impact. And that is part of Black history too. There were other people on buses that did not get up, that had fought before Rosa Parks, but she became the figurehead for that movement. But there are people in our communities that are making an impact. You know, Dr. Glover is watching this morning. He does a lot of work with mental health. That is critical for our communities, mainly because we do not discuss our own mental health issues. I have worked in a vast variety of situations, predominantly white, predominantly African-American, predominantly minority, mixed. And it's always been interesting to me that my non-Black counterparts have no issue discussing mental health problems. They discuss their own meds, they discuss they're going to the therapist, they discuss all kinds, they discuss their problems, whether they're bipolar or whatever. And I mean, we don't look at them any different. But we tend to not seek help, not to want to express that we need assistance. And it concerns me because I am seeing so many young people that are committing suicide or attempting suicide, primarily, I believe, because they need some help. They need somebody to talk to. And so people who are doing that mental health work, you all know, last season on my Dean Talk, I had several sessions dedicated to mental health in higher ed. And I want everyone to realize that this virtual learning environment is stressful. It's not just stressful for parents. It is stressful for our students at all levels, from elementary school all the way to college. It is stressful. You don't have the access to your teachers you used to have. Teachers do not have the ability to reach the individual students that might be having needs that when they walk around the classroom, for instance, they can notice. They don't have that. And students are frustrated because the ones that really want to learn, a lot of them are feeling that they're not doing what they can. And you know, our own self-failure is a major motivating factor in our success or our failure. And I can speak to that directly in my own life. You know, there have been times that I have really done the best I can and I don't do things at the level that I really should. And that really impacts me. And other people are feeling that same thing. So as we celebrate Black history, and I tend to not like to say Black History Month, as we celebrate Black history in 2021, we don't just want to remember the people who are no longer with us. We want to remember the people who are doing the work now and celebrate the people that are doing the work now. Utilize our previous figures as, you know, a foundation. We have amazing people right now working in our school systems, our public school systems. A lot of them decide to return back to campus learning. And then some are going to have on-campus and virtual happening at the same time. Our educators, I am completely disgusted with how our politicians have politicized education. One, our education system really sucks. I mean, if we look at where we are as education, and if we look at places around the world, our education system is inadequate. Let's start there. And I don't mind saying, hey, sister, I don't mind saying that our education system's inadequate at all levels. But we cannot punish our teachers for being afraid of being in classrooms with 20 or 30 students without the adequate materials to teach in a pandemic that might be afraid that they could catch this illness and take it home to their own families. I am disgusted by the fact that we have so many politicians that are refusing the funding to make sure that our teachers and our students are safe. And it's not just about the teachers. It's about our students being in these overcrowded classrooms, which have been overcrowded for decades, and not having the tools that they need. I mean, thank you, Darian. It's just disgusting to me. And President Biden has put through a package that includes additional resources for our school systems, our states, our communities, and this is being politicized. All of those people who are fighting these needed resources should be removed from office. And when we vote again, we need to vote these people out. And I am also including that ignorant senator that's from Georgia up there making all these racial claims that are unsubstantiated, that still is talking about Trump won the election, that is refusing to wear a mask. She needs to be removed too. And I don't care that she came from a predominantly Caucasian community. They should remove her from office. And Congress does have the authority to remove people through the proper channels who should not be there. And her ignorant self needs to be removed. Because she would not come into a city like Atlanta or Detroit or any other predominantly African-American city and start spouting that foolishness. And I was watching an amazing show, Five Guys on Live this week, to find that the woman had the nerve to follow a victim of the shooting massacre down the street and harass him. How is this acceptable? How is it acceptable that these politicians are up there who were attacked in their own office, refusing to move forward with any kind of charges? This is just ridiculous. Everything is not politics, and that's why I wanted to discuss race and politics in this country. The political agenda is not really, I don't care who's the president or who's in Congress, they are not focused on our needs. And that is why it is so critical that we just don't fight for vote at these presidential times, that we vote every time there is a vote. I don't care if it's for a millage, a new law, your local, your state, your community. We need to vote every time, not just every 4 years for a president. Hey, Patrick. And that is a problem. When we are just voting for a president, that means all those other people who get in office are not going through the same problems. And then when we get people in office, we need to hold them accountable. I am not just impressed that Kamala Harris is African-American, Asian-American, and a woman, went to an HBCU and is in a Divine Nine organization. Wonderful. She's in there. What is she going to do? What are they both going to do? And it cannot all be through, and I stated this on a show the other day, it cannot all be through executive order. As we have seen in President Biden's first few days in office, he is overturning previous executive orders. We need legislative change that can be long-term. And if we don't have that long-term change, then that is not really going to make the impact it needs to. Because the next president who comes in there can just come in, write new executive orders, and change everything else. Hey, Darren. So we need legislative change. We need, now that we've got Warnock and Ossoff up there, we need to help make some changes. And often, exactly, accountability, Patrick. Often we vote these people in office at every level, and then they just sit there, they don't do anything, they get reelected over and over and over again because we know who they are. And that's a problem, because none of us at our jobs can just come to work and do nothing. I don't know a single person in my family, my extended family, in my accountability network that I am connected to professionally that can just go to work and just sit there, do nothing, not come to meetings, and then just, go home and get a check for years. Because you're going to be fired. I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself now. I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs. We work a lot. We don't just sit around the house. And so I know that they have used race as a tool to get in these offices. I don't think anybody who follows politics is ignorant to the fact that, especially in my state, Black people had a large impact on some of these people getting into office. So I have some expectations, and I know everything can't happen overnight. I'm glad the Biden's doing all these wonderful executive orders, but I understand change cannot happen overnight. But I do expect the change to happen. We need education reform, and I mean at the highest level. And to be nominating an ignorant senator to the education committee is not acceptable, because she does not have the best interest of every student in this country at heart. She has the best interest of a select few, and that's why this country's in the place it is now. This racial division that is being perpetuated by politicians. We are politicizing every issue. Education should not be politicized. It needs reform. We need people in place that are intelligent enough to do the work. And for the last 4 years, we have not had an education secretary that had a clue. She has no education experience. I'm from Michigan. She destroyed the systems there. She has a lot of money and no experience. I don't understand how you can be education secretary for the country and never have been an educator. That's an issue. You can't get hired anywhere else with no experience. I mean, even the fast food restaurants want people who can read, who can follow instructions, who can provide customer service. It is sad when the education secretary goes to schools and either gets locked out, booed, or in the case of Bethune-Cookman, the entire student body at graduation get up and turn their backs on her because they don't want to hear. And you are the figurehead for education in this country. That's unacceptable. And as a people, we need to hold people accountable, as Patrick said. And if they're not accountable, vote them out. We have school systems in this country with these ignorant people on the school boards or leading these school systems, making some of the most horrendous statements about ethnic groups. But they get reelected. I think we all saw, I wish I pulled that clip, we all saw the video a few months ago when a man was up there talking to the school board and the woman was over there shopping, it looked like on eBay or Amazon at the meeting. She's on the school board with a computer out, shopping. And he called her out, and she got up and walked out of the meeting. But they didn't remove her from the school board. These things have to change. We need to be active proponents to our culture. And I am not, just because I am Black, I don't think that all Black people are doing what we need to do either. You know, our celebrities could use that celebrity to turn things around. And that is what, as the kids say, you know, period. They can turn this thing around. They have the financial resources, they have the influence. If our Black actors said they are not going to be acting for certain companies anymore, we will see change. If our celebrities or our wealthy members of communities started giving back, building centers, providing resources to the community, then we would see change. You know, Carter G. Woodson has, hey, Stacey, Carter G. Woodson has a quote, and I can't remember it verbatim, but it simply says, you know, you cannot move forward if your oppressors are the ones on which you are depending for your own survival. You cannot move forward. You can't grow. You can't get things accomplished if the people funding all of your work really don't care anything about you. So we need to shift how we're doing things. And I mean a serious shift. We know we have education problems. No one in this country is ignorant to the fact we have education problems. I have been across Europe. I've been some parts of Asia, and I am just amazed in the way that they do education. This model of sitting there lecturing people for an hour or 2 hours, none of us wanted to do it, however we perpetuate it. And I hear so many of my colleagues who are educators, and they're older educators, saying they can't wait until we return back to normal. We don't need to return back to what we were doing before. It was failing then, and it will continue to fail. We need to develop a new model. We need education reform. We need a new structure. We need to shift how this high schooling is done. I am a big proponent of shifting high school and high school curriculums because a lot of those classes we take are useless. I have been highly successful in my career, and I have never used advanced trigonometry. I have never used Algebra 5. I have never used pre-calculus, but those were classes that were mandated. And I said before, we need to switch the high school curriculum to the same type of model we use in higher ed, where that first year is survey courses. Give some students an idea of the direction that they would like to go. Expose them to various things, and then get them on a curriculum that works for them. This 4 years of math, 4 years of English, 4 years of science. But then you want to go to school and be a dancer. But you've had one dance class. You know no form, you know no technique, you know no historical dancers. And I'm not just using dance. I know students who have wanted to be scientists or researchers now that took those same standard science classes and then get to college because they didn't have any advanced, in-depth learning in those areas, get to college and feel inadequately prepared. So it works for those people who do want to be in STEM. If we have survey courses in that first year of high school, and they're like, I love science. Add in some science courses. Yes, exactly. This traditional course in high school is not helping the students. Thank you, Darren. I was talking to a parent from church, something that will help their life. Exactly. But we don't teach money management. We don't teach time management. You know, we have students that want to be in IT, amazing field. And right now, I think all of us know technology is a big thing. We have programs, cybersecurity and all this stuff. When I was at Augusta, the governor built this new cyber center in Augusta, big thing. But they're not even getting enough technical skills in high school to go to school and be successful in IT. Now, and I am not saying that everyone needs to go to college and universities. A friend of mine said that the other day, like I'm always telling people they need to go to college and universities. That I have never said that. I am a proponent of colleges and universities. However, I'm a proponent of being educated. You're not going to let someone, and I always say, you're not going to let someone do your hair if they have not been to school or if they have not done some kind of apprenticeship or some kind of proven tactics that you can see their work. If you're a woman, you're not going to go somewhere with some woman who has never studied hair, has no thing, and have her give you a perm and put color in your hair. Because they're not educated in the field. And most cosmetologists, and I am fortunate that some of my friends have licenses, credentials. They've done these hours, and it's like thousands of hours of training. So I'm a proponent of being educated and being skilled and trained in your area. There are some jobs that require college. You know, and I'm getting concerned that we are discouraging so many of our Black boys and girls from thinking about going to college. With this, you can be successful without college. You can, but everybody doesn't need to be an entrepreneur. Everybody doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. Everybody does not understand how hard and difficult it is to own your own business. That's not everyone's goal. Some people want to be lawyers and doctors and researchers. They need advanced training. You can't go to law school with a high school diploma. And if we keep focusing on this, discouraging people from going to college, we won't have our own doctors. We won't have our own lawyers. We won't have our own people that can be part of the research of a pandemic drug with Moderna. Because they won't have a skill set to be marketable. Now, that being said, I will keep saying it until some things change. I think every collegiate program needs to have an external educational component, whether you want to call it experiential learning, internship, externship, or whatever, hands-on practical training before they leave college. You know, we do it for teachers. They have a student teaching period that's required. We do it for business students. They have internships that are required. But then we have other fields that get no practical experience. I was very impressed. We had a professor at Payne, Dr. Catherine Adams, who I think now is at Claflin, and she was at Allen for a while. She took her students to Nashville, to a library to do some research so they could understand if this is what you want to do, this is the work you're doing. She brought people in to her students. She used technology. She would have, guests in that classroom. She would get those students out of that classroom for experiences. And that's what it's going to take if we are really going to rebuild our communities. And we need to stop allowing the political structure to utilize us as pawns with no return on investment. Now, I don't mind them fighting for our votes. I don't mind them always, we always see them during the political season. They want to go to every black church. But this year they were a little shocked because we were closed. I don't mind that so much if there's going to be a return on investment. If you're up there, if you're in the state or federal government, get us some funding to fix these schools. Get us some funding to these teachers who need this PPE in their classrooms as well. Get us some shields for our classrooms. Asia cannot be the only country, the only continent where their countries are focused on putting these shields up, protecting the students. Europe cannot be the only place where they are protecting students. Our liquor stores in Detroit had plastic shields up. You couldn't get to the people who worked there. That was long before a pandemic. And so we have to make changes. And I think you see this more. I am very passionate about this because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing, young people committing suicide because they're so stressed. I'm tired of us being used and then we get nothing from it. I'm tired of the ignorance that I see perpetrating as intelligence. And I believe that that's what we should focus on during Black History Month. Black empowerment. That's what we should focus on this month. I am fortunate that, a black coffee company, Java 365, promotes this show. I'm very fortunate. And they have provided funding. They provided coffee. I am excited. A friend of mine, Moses, who goes by Moses the Mogul now, has a company and they sell coffee, but he has also expanded and has his own clothing line now. Quality products. And I said this the other day on a Facebook post. I am about supporting Black businesses, but I am not about promoting poor customer service and poor quality. Now, if you're going to have a business, it needs to provide the same excellence that I'll receive at Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom or Neiman Marcus. On your level. If you have a restaurant and people come there, I should not have to wait for 40 minutes before someone comes and says hello. Now, the other side of that, as customers, instead of just stopping supporting our businesses, go to the owner and say something in a polite way, not the way that, sometimes we come off. But go to them and say, I really like your food, but, these are some things that have been the issues for me. Because we don't stop going to other stores if we have issues. Macy's, I've had horrible experiences at Macy's. They're still open and people still go. I've had issues with Amazon, with products, a couple products that come broken. And I've had to go to 2 or 3 customer service agents before I got my stuff replaced. But I haven't stopped shopping at Amazon. And that's the same thing. So before we discount our Black businesses, try to, provide some positive feedback. I went to a restaurant, it's a Black-owned restaurant, and I just didn't understand what this wait was. It was ridiculous. So I just asked to see the owner or the manager or whoever was there, and I spoke to them. And I said, this was not a good experience. I promote Black businesses, but this was bad. Come to find out, 2 people they had to fire for stealing, and then the other server had a death in the family. So they were short 3 people. Well, that makes sense. Now that could have been changed had they just said that when they bring people to the host stand. Service is a little slow today. We're doing our best, but we're down some people. That could have solved that problem right there. And then I would have been like, well, I want to go here and eat. And I understand it's going to be slow. So we need to communicate. So this month, a couple things I want everybody to do. We want to support Black businesses. And we want to extend how we look at Black history. We got Black Excellence, one of my favorite actresses, Lynn Whitfield, amazing. Black Excellence at its best. And so make sure that when you are working with your young people, your children, if you're a teacher, that you are sharing with them some of these living legends that are making a change today. So that's it for this morning. It's been 45 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, your support and everything. Just as we close, I've gotten a lot of requests asking how people can be guests on my shows or how they can be sponsors. And we have sponsorship levels everywhere from $25 and up. If you go to my website and just shoot me an email, I will be glad to get more information to you. Usually my team sends out those notifications. We are scheduling guests for this show. It's a little early for some. And then also for Dean Talk, which is my live show, and for Desk of the Dean, which is my podcast. So we are working on guests for those. We're looking for people who, want to be real with us. And if you're interested in being a sponsor, go to my website and send me email. Sponsors, these shows, contrary to what people may believe, are not free, and it's quite an investment. But we reach over 3,000 people a week. So it is an investment. If you have a business, it's a useful investment. I've had feedback from people that said that they have really seen their business grow by working with us. Thank you all so much. It is 8:45, and I'm trying to decide if I am going to continue my day or if I'm going to take a break. Have a great week. I will see you all again on the third Wednesday for Coffee Chronicles.